And usually it tells me when it starts to record, but it doesn't this time. Something has changed within the system, which I am not. But what can you do? Um, so I need at least one. Uh, There they are. So the first thing we're going to do, and you guys, you got something to write in? You can create a muscle memory. Oh, and I avoided narrowly several accidents taking my daughter back to school. So, so that was fun. Aaron, let's start with you. What did you do with your weekend, Aaron? What was the movie? Oh, okay. All right. Which night is that? Saturday night? Is that right? Okay. All right. I think I saw that on TV. Yeah, yeah. I was watching that too. Well, good. Awesome. Adrian, how about you?
I had a hockey tournament.
Yeah, where was it?
It was here.
Yeah, how'd you do?
We did all right. We won 2 games, lost one.
Okay, all right. Not bad. Good. Daniel?
Yeah, but
Daniel, how about you? What was your weekend? I hope you're not stuck under a rock. All right, surprise. Dylan, your turn. What did you do over the weekend?
I didn't do much, but Sunday I was hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
That's when the roads were bad that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That snow Monday morning, that was a big surprise. But I was driving home Sunday afternoon, and lucked out. The roads did not get bad until after I got home. Now, are you licensed? Do you have a license? Yeah. Did you have to drive that Sunday?
Yeah.
How bad were they?
They weren't bad, but I wasn't like speeding, so.
Okay. Yeah, I was on the turnpike, and sometimes turnpike driving can get a little scary. Hey, how about you? What was your weekend like? Boring. How come? You didn't do anything? Just stayed home. Did you have anything really good to eat, or did you watch anything good on TV? No. All right, well, we gotta work on it. We gotta work on that. Janet, how about you? Yeah. Do you have a friend on the team?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did they win? No. All right. You have a good time? What's like how many people are they allowed to have in their
Okay, so it's not really a certain amount, there's just four per athlete.
Oh, okay. Well, unfortunately, our girls' sports tends to not take a lot of time. Which kind of stinks. Hayden, how about you? Any weekend stuff?
You said me?
Yep.
Oh, I just chilled at home.
Yep. Fair enough. What'd you do?
On Saturday,
Oh, okay. Okay. Did you have to do any shoveling?
I actually did. I had to shovel this morning, but there was a lot of snow.
Oh,
A lot of ice, but I had to shovel.
yeah. Yeah, it was that was a surprise. Yeah. Nikki, how about you?
I was finishing up on some work and
Did you go over there? Or did you go over here?
I was over there.
Are you licensed?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you have to be safe. New drivers. Okay. This is your first year driving in the snow, right? Yeah, my son is too. Makes me a little anxious sometimes. Holly, how was your weekend? What did you do? With your extra day? Did you stay around here or did you go back to Illinois? Did you? Visit? Did you get a good visit in? I was in Pittsburgh for most of my for the end. It's hard to leave there sometimes. At the same time, I had to leave Pittsburgh. Yeah.
The boys basketball extra account.
Okay.
And then, my brother's basketball for college again, so we got a
Where does he go?
couple.
And when does he go? What does he come back? Maybe May. He doesn't have spring break.
No, they had a really long,
Right.
winter break.
Does he have to get COVID tested before he goes back?
I think so, yeah. But they just do it rapid.
Right. Yeah, my daughter's got rapid test today. All right. Kaylee Butler, how about you? What you do?
I didn't do a lot. I had basketball and swim class.
Okay. All right. So staying active. That's good. Kaylee Reinhardt, how about you?
I didn't really do anything.
Nothing at all?
Not really.
So you had a boring weekend like Faith, huh?
Yeah.
Any really great food? You didn't go sledding? Watch anything?
I watched a movie.
Yeah, what was it?
It was like really, really weird. It was like this movie called like Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight. And it was like Polish, but like so like the words were like in English, but they weren't lining up because the actual movie was in Polish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it a horror?
Yeah, kind of. It was like really creepy. I don't know.
Wow. Wow. All right. I'll have to look it up. Oh, really? Did you watch anything? Is it just because it's available and there's a lot of seasons? If you watched Supernatural, couldn't get in. Fair enough. Nicole, how about you? And don't forget you can chat. Nicole, you there? All right, we'll jump to Andy.
I work on Saturday and Sunday, and then on Monday and Sunday, this is my only day that I wasn't having to get up early.
Where are you working?
I was at Starbucks,
Which one?
the one in Martin, because, I work in the Starbucks in Brandon, Martin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like right by my house.
That's the,
Like I haven't gone to the career center now, so like I haven't been really doing stuff for that class. So it's just
what kind of animals?
like small animals like dogs and like cats.
So no, you don't have to be. Friend of mine is there, Christmas party, a couple of years ago, and she had her arm wrapped in plastic and off the glass, so, pretty gross. Yeah, yeah, Sadie Steve. Olivia, how about you? What'd you do with your weekend? This is the longest. How many do you have now? All right, well, I'll leave it over to Parker. Parker, how about you? What'd you do?
I had a showcase for Texas A&M.
Oh, yeah? How'd it go?
I think pretty good.
Where were they? Did they come off, or did you go there?
No, they flew me down.
Or? Right. How was your weekend? Boop, did you hear me? All right, we'll try Sam. Sam, how about you?
Me?
Yeah.
I went to work, I did a bunch of cleaning at my house. I did a bunch of laundry, which was kind of boring, and then I got yelled at by these people at work who didn't want to wear a mask even though it's required.
Sure. Yeah. Where do you work again?
I work at Martin's, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, man. Just a jerk.
Yeah.
We're gonna look at a little bit of that. Yeah, how about you? What was your weekend like?
My family on Saturday we made like a big old baked ziti for dinner. And that was a new recipe. We never tried it before. It was really good. And then afterwards we finished watching The Mandalorian on Disney Plus.
Oh, yeah. How many of you, Marvel? Anyone watch WandaVision? No? We watched that on Friday night before we left and took my daughter to back to college. And so I was gone, as I said, the weekend Saturday, Sunday. Came home Sunday and then all day yesterday. It was great catching up. Still got a lot to go. Right after. All right. So notebook, if you would, if you got a notebook here in the room, go ahead and get one out. If you don't have a notebook, go ahead and open up your Chromebook. I want you to take a note for me here. And we're looking at the universe of obligation and who exists in your universe of obligation. And this is kind of where we as a community, as a large community, are struggling right now. This universe of obligation. And what do I want to do? I want to make that a little bit bigger so I can see it. Did I do that right? Maybe I didn't. Boo. So the universe of obligation. And I want you to be thinking about who exists inside your universe of obligation and what it even means. So we've got this scholar. She's a historian who studies the Holocaust. And her name is Helen Klein. And she says that the universe of obligation is the circle of individuals and groups toward whom obligations are owed. To whom rules apply, and whose injuries call for amends. In other words, those that a society believes have rights that are worthy of respect and protection. So what are the ideas or words or concepts we kind of need to unpack in terms of the universe of obligations? Obligations are owed, rules apply, injuries call for amends, respect and protection. Is there anything that I need to define? Or that you want to ask about?
Maybe it's just me, Mr. Coffey, but I don't entirely understand what it means by to whom rules apply.
Okay. So it's the individuals and groups within your circle to whom rules apply. And so, for instance, the individuals who broke into the Capitol building and started looking through people's emails, but rules do apply to them. Does that make sense? Okay. What else? What else do you use a little bit of clarification? You are, go ahead. That's a good question. And so under the circumstances, so we're asking about the injuries that call for amends. Circle of individuals and groups toward whom obligations are owed, to whom rules apply, and whose injuries call for amends. And so right now, for instance, you folks are within my universe of obligation. You exist within my universe of obligation. I am obligated to you to do certain things for you, to try to help you as best as I possibly can. And many of you right now are injured. How is it that you are injured right now? How are you injured? Huh? Not necessarily even your academic grade. It's that we're working through whatever it is that we're currently working through. So your injury or your hurt at the moment is the result of. And did somebody raise their hand? Oh, okay, Sam. Sam, I'll hit you in a minute. Okay. You are injured in that you can't go to school in a full way. And so we're trying to end injury. Okay. Does that make sense? Sam, what do you got?
So, like regarding say like stress from like outer sources, stress from the virus, like pressure, or the balance like academic, personal life, and like employment, stuff like that.
All that stuff. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot that's kind of going on there under those circumstances. And not every injury is going to be able to be fixed, and some of those injuries we can prevent ourselves, and that's an important element to remember. Okay. Anything else? What else? Anything else from that list? In terms of the universe of obligation. So thinking about this universe of obligation, just as we did with the Declaration of Independence. So when we looked at the Declaration of Independence, the Declaration of Independence was the creation of a universe of obligation. And back in November, we looked at two groups that were excluded from that universe of obligation. What were those two groups? Women and people of color. Right? And so in 1942, who is included in America's universe of obligation? Okay. So same thing. It is what's missing from the Declaration. So there's, let me see if I think I've got a story that I can share with you that is connected to this. I heard it this morning, so I don't know if it's available. But let me see. And it was an interview with, what's his name? Ken Burns. How many of you, does anybody know the name of Ken Burns? Anybody familiar with him? Wonderful. Right. Very cute going on. Let me see. It is. All right. Let me actually share. Oh. 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 So, and there's a very particular moment in this interview that deals with this universal obligation, particularly within the country. And so we're going to give this a listen. And this is, it is a powerful piece.
Ken Burns has spent his career documenting U.S. history, but the catastrophes of the Trump era, from the pandemic to the economic collapse, have him reaching back into his archives to look at how the country might move forward.
In 1947, the city of New York vaccinated in less than 1 month the entire populace, 6 million inoculations against smallpox. You can do that in 1947 because people were on the same page.
He wrote about this in an essay for Politico, but he told our co-host Rachel that rallying Americans for a common good won't be as easy these days.
I used to think that there were 3 great crises: the Civil War, the Depression, and the Second World War in American life. I would add this, and maybe this is the very, very worst.
You sat down and started thinking through your own archive of documentaries and about the hundreds, thousands of interviews you've done over your long career, and tried to identify some that would bring wisdom to bear right now. Where did your mind settle?
Well, I think that history, despite being a kind of litany of dark and complicated and challenging moments, also makes one paradoxically an optimist. And so I wanted to include a phenomenal moment when FDR, in the middle of his first term, goes out to the Dakotas and goes to a in progress Mount Rushmore, in which only the heads of Washington and now Jefferson have emerged from the rocks. And he says this remarkable thing. He says that 10,000 years from now, and he said, I think there will be American 10,000 years. You think 10,000 years before that moment, human beings were living in caves. That 10,000 years from now, that they would look back and say that we had done our best.
Do you wonder whether our descendants, because I think they'll still be here, what they will think about us? They will believe that we have honestly striven to preserve for our descendants a decent land to live in and a decent form of government to operate under.
A phenomenal moment. Here's a guy, FDR, pampered only son, in a sense, of a wealthy, age-old American family, who suddenly, through his own personal suffering, understands and develops an empathy for the suffering of others. And in some ways, I describe part of Joe Biden's biography. And it has been defined by loss and suffering, but the positive power to say, what are you going to do? You can't curl up in a ball. So let's put one foot in front of the other, and we'll see what we can do. This was part of FDR's essential greatness. And that optimism is at the heart of it. You can hear echoes of it in Joe Biden.
You also wanted to include an interview that you did with famed writer James Baldwin when he was talking about what he saw in the Statue of Liberty, what it meant to him and other Black Americans.
Yeah, it was a remarkable moment, Rachel. This was the 3rd or 4th film I'd ever made. It was on this history of the Statue of Liberty, but I also wanted to deal with the idea of liberty. And so we were speaking to immigrants like the writer Josie Kosinski and Milos Forman and others who could appreciate it. And obviously that was not intended for me. When he got halfway, not even halfway through, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. He said, hey, stop, that was not intended for me.
Well, rather happening to this country. Sergeant, it is simply a very bitter joke, meaning nothing to us.
And he wanted to remind us at a time when we weren't talking about race, to think about that. A reminder that this statue, open to the sea, welcoming immigrants, had its back to America.
It was also so striking to hear this quote from historian Barbara Fields. Fields is a Black woman, a Black historian, that she's talking about America's Civil War. And she makes plain that the war is not stuck in the past. It's a living, breathing thing. William Faulkner said once that history is not was, it's is. The Civil War is still going on. It's still to be fought, and regrettably, it can still be lost.
So let me rewind a little bit. Barbara spoke at the last moments of the history of the American Civil War that we published, if you will, in the fall of 1990. And so Barbara Fields' words remain as a kind of cautionary thing that are as relevant today as they were when she spoke them in an interview, I'm guessing we did in 87 or 88, perhaps, and that's a long time ago.
As a student of American democracy yourself, after the past 4 or 5 years, do you come out of this seeing our fragility exposed as a country, or do you see the institutions have maintained, our ability to endure has actually been strengthened?
I don't feel that our ability to endure has been strengthened. I am constantly reminded that fragility is a constant thing in the history of us. But at the same time, we just keep going forward. There's no other option but to endure. And we are now in a toxic moment. We don't get our information from the same place the way we used to. And that has had poisonous effect on our democracy. And we have to find a way to convince tens of millions of people that this election was actually the best we ever had in terms of the fraud that they are certain happened. And the only reason they believe that fraud is that it's become, repeated so many times within their echo chambers that they don't even have the possibility of thinking of an alternative universe. And it is incumbent upon us to address the questions that are happening here. We've got work to do.
Documentary filmmaker Ken Burns. And now, more from NPR. Live from NPR News, I'm Cora Coleman. President-elect Joe Biden will travel to Washington today. He'll participate in a ceremony at the reflecting pool near the Lincoln Memorial. He'll honor nearly 400,000 Americans who have died of COVID-19.
All right, so in case you want to take a look at the transcript, I think there's some value from the things that occurred in his comments. And so, in terms of thinking about this universe of omnis, right? And so, folks at home, if you would go ahead and click that link, and then scroll down a little bit to the interview highlights. And in thinking about this business of the universe of omnis, we've got Franklin Delano Roosevelt, President of the United States, through who sees us through the Great Depression and most of World War II. Terrible thing. And he is a man of tremendous wealth and privilege. However, he was also a sufferer of poverty. He was a physically handicapped person in this country trying to kind of negotiate liberty allows us to expand our universe of obligation. How has your universe of obligation changed just in the past year? Has it changed just in the past? And then, let's see here. And then, there's good advice here too. What are you gonna do? You can't curl up in the ball. You've got to put one foot in front of the other, and we'll see what we can do. When you're hit by something that is a surprise, the best that you can do is just go. James Baldwin indicated that the Statue of Liberty was a very bitter joke to Black America. And this was interesting. And it's something that I've never thought of before. That the Statue of Liberty faces out. It faces out. It does not face the United States. It faces out to the Atlantic Ocean. And so there's something particularly telling about that. And as a black man, James Baldwin is indicating that he does not feel that he does not feel that the Statue of Liberty, that he's welcome within the universe of obligation of America. He doesn't feel part of it. Well, we gotta keep going. We have no option, but that's valuable. Valuable information, but not quite the universe of obligation. So I want you to take a look at this reading in our agenda. And so if you guys are not yet looking at the agenda, you want to follow. Give this a look. So folks at home, go ahead and click that link and open it up and read it.
It's a lawyer, I'm about to teach it, so I don't.
Well, you certainly want to be thinking about the question. And I know I've got one person who needs a little bit more time to read, but go ahead and, if you're working from home, go ahead and open up, the next link. And, what's that? If you might need some paper, because I think it'll be hard to edit this. And follow the instructions. In circle 1, you'll write your name. And then in circle 2, the names of people to whom you feel the greatest obligation. People for whom you'd be willing to take a great risk. Or put yourself in peril. And who goes in the next level? Well, if you've got paper, you can draw it. Like Southerners. Now, if you're looking at these circles, think about take care of yourself, take care of each other, and take care of this place. And how that's kind of an expansion of, or an extension of, our universe of obligation. That when we say that, I mean, think about those words. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of this place. If we're taking care of those things and putting them all in the center, how might that give us a little bit more hope? So be thinking about that. So even under the circumstances that we get angry about the violence that occurs, how can trying to come to an understanding for the cause of that violence help make things a little bit better? We have a little bit over 20 minutes left. And I'm going to give you the rest of the time that you need for all of you. So hang on to those circles. Folks at home, if you want to stay around in the meeting, you're welcome to. But we're reading up to page 133. Okay? 133, that's our goal.
I'm a bit behind on this, but I think I need a little bit of clarification because I'm trying to make sure I have these questions formatted right.
Okay.
So one of the questions is, to whom do you have obligations and to whom do you owe obligations?
Right.
What is the difference between those two things?
It's just a rephrasing.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well,